I'm just going on live late. Welcome everyone to another edition of Unravel Your Mind. We're here to transform relationships to love and life. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different. I've been gone all week. We didn't have a show last week. We were dark. I've been at the Psychedelic Science Conference, which was an amazing week. And Spirit said, forget about the questions this week. There's a lot to share, a lot that came from our time together in Denver. And so I am just going to let Spirit flow and share some of the insights and the updates and just things that were coming through, because it's such a magical time right now for over 12,000 people to have come together to the Psychedelic Science Convention in Denver. Where it just couldn't have gone better, in my opinion. I think that one of my concerns going in was I wasn't really sure what was going to happen, and if anything was going to go off the rails or crazy stuff. And the last thing I wanted was for us to get negative media about psychedelics and about what's happening with this whole, some people are calling it a renaissance, and I happen to agree with some of the thought leaders that it's actually not a renaissance until we're in the future looking back and saying, yes, this is actually a renaissance. And so perhaps that's a great place to start, because I think a lot of the things that got talked about at the convention was the science and the data, but also there was a lot talked about when it came to the history and the elders and the experience that we have with psychedelics, which is such an interesting anomaly, because usually when a product is coming to market, and I say product, and I don't mean that in this true sense of that word, but when a product is coming to market from the FDA, approval from the FDA, like MDMA is being submitted right now with clinical trials, phase 3. When that process typically happens, we don't have a lot of back data because it's a new molecule. And in this situation, it's not a new molecule. So if you're new to all this, let me back up and say that MAPS is an incredible nonprofit organization and a for-profit organization. They have been working for over 15 plus years on bringing the power of psychedelics, specifically MDMA, to the market and legalizing it. So right now, all psychedelics are Schedule 1, which means that there's a felony offense, and some states have already jumped on the bandwagon, Oregon for one, and decriminalized psilocybin. So we have some psychedelics that are coming. We have ketamine that's already on the market, ketamine clinics that are proper clinics to go in and have an experience and integrate, and really to help with PTSD, depression, anxiety, some more severe forms of mental health and wellness that they're here to help us with. MDMA is another molecule that has been around for years and years and years, and was actually legal and then became illegal with the war on drugs. So as that is sort of a setting, Rick Doblin has been the pioneer in this industry to really bring MDMA back onto the market. And why? Because he is really set on helping mental health, and specifically his research started with the vets and helping vets overcome PTSD, overcome some of the really traumatic situations that they've encountered and endured serving our country. So that's where it started, and there's so much more that's happening with it now, with phase 3 trials, and now having this massive convention. I think the last, if I'm correct, was 2017 was the last psychedelic science convention. There was around 3,000 attendees, and now we had over 12,000. So people converged from all walks of life. And I guess what I started to talk about was I really hoped going into this that we weren't going to see anything crazy happen, and that we were really there to talk about not only the clinical data and the science of not just MDMA, but many other psychedelics, DMT. I think there was also some presentations on LSD, although I didn't see them myself. And so there was a lot of discussion around, what this looks like and how to roll this out in a proper way so that we're not back where we were in the 60s and 70s when things did go off the rails a bit, and that's what started the whole war on drugs. So lots of great discussions and lots of data that exists anecdotally with MDMA, and so it's a new time, a new way, but we are looking at how can this new molecule be rolled out in a way that is not abused. And so I was pleasantly surprised by everyone at the conference, how professional people were, how much fun people had. You know, this was really about community. It was like the first time I'd seen science and spirituality be so closely aligned in so many ways, where, you know, a lot of people that maybe don't come from a scientific background and never will and never have even an inkling to want to know the science and data because they've had so much experience with some of the psychedelics and the underground. We all came together and we all had an incredible time talking about what we're looking to do with this, as I said, renaissance, which I think is something we look back on, but there's really pivotal points happening right now. And so Spirit just flowed through today in my spin class and said, this isn't so much about answering questions. And I appreciate all the questions everyone submits each week. I haven't even had a chance to go back and look at the questions that you've all submitted. So I'll be sure to answer those next week. And please, you know, always feel free to join me live if you have a question you want to jump on with. But I wanted to just go through some of my big takeaways. And it was really fun to be in presence with so many others with a similar intention of helping to awaken humanity. Now, again, I'm not representing any of the MAPS organization with anything that I talk about here today. I'm representing my own personal opinion. But I really, really appreciate what they're doing. But I also appreciate what all of the awakening agents out there are doing as well. Experiencing this energy of so many of us with a similar intention to help awaken humanity was incredible. I have to say that, you know, fast forward last night when I got home, it was a little bit late. I went out to grab something to eat and I was standing in line and I happened to mention to two random gentlemen that struck up a conversation with me about the psychedelic science conference. And they kind of looked at me like with a blank stare and a momentary pause and said, "Are you serious?" And it dropped me right back onto planet Earth in the sense that, you know, this is not mainstream yet. And it felt so mainstream in Denver. I just absolutely loved that we were all in a common place and really sharing in the wisdom that we've all gained from our psychedelic journeys. And so I wanted to encourage everyone that's listening in here. I have a feeling that if you're listening to this video or were called to tune in, that you too are on your awakening journey and that you have a lot to share with the world, because it's always about shining the light and showing the way. I'm not here to say that everyone should be doing psychedelics. I'm here to say that if you're in that place in your spiritual journey where you want to take things to the next embodiment level, not just the intellectual level, then psychedelic journeys may be something that you're up for. So consider that. Consider that there is a lot of data and science. There are a lot of things happening right now in humanity. You are here to help your brothers and sisters along the way, but most importantly, to heal yourself. And so it's all about getting to that inner trauma and unraveling the mind and unveiling the truth of who you really, really are. And that is, you know, it sounds very spiritual and hoity-toity to say, you know, we're all one, but we are. And I think psychedelics are one of those agents that helps us really understand conceptually. And we've seen in quantum physics, we've seen the holographic universe. We've seen how all of this is a projection. We've been able to mirror some of these things in science and in spirituality. So it's an exciting time. So many things happened this past week. I want to talk a little bit more about some of the things that I was working on there. I thought that I was going to talk a little bit more about some of the things that I'm doing with my book, Angels, Herpes, and Psychedelics. And I have to say that I spent very little time talking about my own projects because I got a really incredible opportunity to sit and be part of a new documentary that's coming out that is reviewing all of Rick Doblin's work. Again, this video is my opinion. It's not coming from Prescription X, which is the documentary, or from MAPS, but it is reflecting my own observations and my own personal experiences. So I had this incredible opportunity to help represent Prescription X and raise awareness, raise funding. And I'm going to put the link in the notes below, because I would love if you're inspired to help share financial support for the documentary. I think it's one of those that is going to be life-changing for a lot of people to really understand what psychedelics can do for them, but also what Rick Doblin has done and has gone through in the legalization process of psychedelics. So I met thousands of people. And if you're one of those people listening to this right now that I met, please write a little note in the note section below, because I would love to hear from you. I was in the exhibit hall. We had many people that came to learn about Rick's journey. So it hasn't been an easy one, because as you may know and experience yourself, that talking about psychedelics is something that oftentimes can feel a little bit like, you're talking about psychedelics? How is this even possible? And they're awakening agents. So I've started to touch on this, and I really want people to understand that this is not the 60s and 70s. This is not the movement that where everyone went off the rails. This is a movement to go inward. It's about going deeper into who you really are, understanding all the beliefs that are wound so tightly within you that sometimes we don't even know that we're running with this installed program that's holding us back from really being who we really are and living our life's passion and purpose. So this week was a testament to how many people are actually out there living their purpose and helping others to live their purpose as well. So in the documentary, Rick shows us his purpose, and it's been 9 years in the making. Both the producers are dear friends of mine, and I enjoyed seeing a lot of the footage that they've taken over the last 9 years. We still probably got another year to go before MDMA is legally approved by FDA, and that's never a given, but we hope that is what is going to happen in mid to late 2024. So that's the hope. And Rick has been a pioneer in this industry for so long, and he's done so much for vets. He's done so much for humanity as a whole. And I had an opportunity to actually meet Rick this visit, and found him to be an incredibly humble and grounded man who is just genuinely coming from his heart space and helping humanity heal. And so if you're at all inspired to help humanity heal and to bring consciousness to an expanded state within humanity, I would very much encourage you to click the link below and donate to the documentary Prescription X. Now, there's a couple of things I think that Spirit's been really clear to share, that if you're on your journey, there is so much right now that we're all walking through. Some days are really deep molasses feeling days. There's a lot of emotion, a lot of sometimes sadness, sometimes yours, sometimes ancestral lineage, sometimes the programs that are running out there in the collective consciousness. And now is the time to keep going. I keep getting this same encouragement from my guides, saying that it's sort of like, if you think about NASA and you think about a space shuttle being launched out into the atmosphere, you're burning off a lot of fuel, and it's really intense. And once you break through the atmosphere and you're able to just go out into outer space, it's a completely different experience. And I think a lot of us are being tested with this right now, where those days that feel really, really heavy, and we're feeling like, I don't know if I can make it through another moment, because our mind is so online and sharing all this narrative and all these stories, things that are just not making us feel great. Stick with it. Let the thoughts go. Don't stick in the thoughts. Don't go down the rabbit hole with the thoughts. Observe the thoughts and let them go, because that's how we process our emotions. But we don't get taught that. So it's all about going inward, identifying how am I feeling, actually allowing yourself to feel in your body that are attached to those thoughts, because those thoughts are fleeting. Many of you have heard Ram Dass say, be here now, right? And so if we're in a thought, we're either in a future thought, wanting something that we think doesn't exist, or a past thought, perhaps longing for something that we experienced before. And all we have is this precious, precious moment of now. And so it's all about really staying in the present moment and not letting that mind run the show, which is all that we talk about here on Unravel Your Mind show, because it's really getting down to the core nuggets of, why am I feeling this emotion? What is it in my belief system? What is it in my thoughts that is holding me back, or that is making me feel this way? And getting to it, getting to the core of the issue, releasing it and letting it go. And that is something that psychedelics can also help us do, is get to some of those subconscious thoughts that we don't even know exist. Sometimes we do know that they exist, and sometimes we're listening very closely to that narrative. But the calling is to really go into what that narrative is, letting it go and letting spirit drive, not your mind, your ego mind. But our ego minds are in that driver's seat a lot of the times, and we've got to get it in the back. So there were so many sessions that talked about, not only the consciousness and the expansion of what we're able to experience with some of these psychedelic agents, but also the brain chemistry. There's lots of data and research now that's looking at the very specific things that are happening in our brain. And I have to say that I walked out of, because I was really excited to go to some of the neuroplasticity and the brain scans and get into the science of it all. But what I think really happened for me was, I was like, wait, do we really need to go to that level of science when we know with psychedelics, and when we know even without psychedelics, we know that there's so many different dimensions and realms that we can access, that a lot of what we can look at with our own research tools is so behind the times. One story comes to mind. Amanda with the Beckley Foundation, she's one of the elders in the community. She's done a lot of research, and she's been researching about the brain, and I don't know her research super well, so forgive me if I'm quoting something wrong, but she was talking about how she was certain that additional blood flow to the brain was part of how some of the psychedelics worked. And she also has some really interesting backstories about some other stuff she did, which I won't talk about on the show today. But she did research and found that, in fact, that the blood flow to the brain was not one of the primary necessities to have an expanded state of consciousness. And so she's still, many years later, looking to find that scientific data that makes some proof. And so she's sort of come to the conclusion, at least from what I heard her say, that, it's about energy. And I'm like, yes, of course it is. Of course, this is about the unseen. This is about things that are perhaps not quantifiable with our tools, with an MRI machine, with brain scans. These are not things that we can actually see and study in that same sense, because we're talking about things that are expanded states of consciousness that put us out into astral realms. So it makes sense that we wouldn't necessarily be able to quantify everything that's happening. I mean, look, the scientists don't know exactly how all of this works. Yes, of course, we can talk about serotonin receptors. We can talk about a lot of things that they do speculate and that they do know, but it still doesn't fill in the whole picture. So spirit is an ominous, all-encompassing energy that we are all part of. We are all connected to, and it's time for us to reconnect to that energy, because that, I believe, is what we're being called to do with everything that's happened, with all the, if you want to say, crisis over the last couple of years, with yes, everything that's happened. It is a calling for us to step into our true power, our true knowing, who we really are, and connect to source. You can call it spirit, you can call it the universe. There's lots of names that people give it, but it's the energy that helps the flowers to grow, the grass to grow, the storms to, to swirl. Everything that's happening in the unseen realms is spirit and energy, and it's something that we're all connected to. Our heart is beating, not because we're thinking a thought, because we're being a human. And so this is what I think this whole Renaissance is all about. It's about expanding our state of consciousness to dig into the depths of who we really are and to heal ourselves, to heal the programs and the thought constructs that separate us from one another. So if you're in a spot right now where you're feeling like everything is just really crappy and the emotions are heavy, just know that you can get through this. And a lot of it has to do with the thoughts that you're thinking, because whatever you're seeing in the external world is a reflection of what you believe in your internal space. So it is always about taking that personal responsibility to shift our thoughts, to shift our mind, to unravel the thought constructs, because a lot of times we just can't get to it until we've done the spiritual work and built the spiritual toolbox, which I also can't say enough about, because that I think is something that really helps with the integration process with anything related to the psychedelic realm. There's a lot of microdosing happening. There's a lot of macrodosing happening. There's a lot of museum dosing happening, which is somewhere in between. There's a lot of options out there that can help you, that are even things that I wouldn't necessarily say are psychedelic, but that are heart openers. Lots of different agents that can help you to just switch those thoughts and open your heart and feel back in here as opposed to being in your head. So there is so many things that are coming. There's so many things that are available. I'm going to continue to put more resources on my website, bethbell.me, on the psychedelics page. So please always check there. I'll be putting some companies that I met over this last week, some of their incredible products that I was able to experience, and all things that are legal and available to help you with mental wellness and expanded states of consciousness. So I think that is so important for us to continue to do our own journey, to continue to do our own work, but more importantly, to stay in community with each other, which is also another point of what this show is all about, is for us to come to a platform where we can talk with each other about what our issues are, and that we can actually overcome together some of the most common mind constraints that many of us suffer from. So one of the other things that happened was there was an amazing number of elders here at this week's conference that I don't know if we'll see them again at the next conference. They were sharing their wisdom. We had Stan Groff, we had Roland Griffiths. Both of these gentlemen are just amazing men who have done so much for the psychedelic industry. Andrew Weil, who was there. We had Louis Schwartzberg, who was there, Paul Stamets, who was there. These guys have been around and will continue to be around, we hope, for many, many more years. We also had Amanda Beckley from the Beckley Foundation, as I mentioned, so that was amazing to see her. There was people that may not be, I don't know when the next psychedelic science convention is going to be, so it just felt very, very incredible to have them participate and speak and signing books. Some of the other elders that we hope will be around for many more years, Michael Pollan was there. Tim Ferriss was not there in person, but he had a little clip. So there's so many people that are supporting this movement, and the education and the science and the social aspects, and also the indigenous aspect of medicines, and sharing really where some of this has been intricately used with the Native American tribes. That's more specifically some of the peyotes and mescaline, and some of the discussions that took place around wanting to really save the sacred ceremonial aspect of the medicines. And so that was also a big topic. And I'm very much about ceremonial use of psychedelics, and not, I personally am not about social use of psychedelics. I think that psychedelics are sacred and plant-based medicines are sacred. I think that it's, wonderful to have fun, but I think that the whole point of them is to help us to go on the inward journey, and the inward journey can sometimes take us to the cosmos and take us out there into other realms, of course. But it's about really learning more about ourselves and learning about our mind and learning about the programs that are installed within that may be limiting to us. Maybe some of them are not limiting, and we want to have more of that and less of something else. But until we really dig deep within ourselves and understand what these are, we're running around a little bit numb. And this is where we are with humanity, is there's a junction right now. We're looking to either go this way or this way. So depending upon which way you're choosing to go, because it is a choice, you could be sliding back down into the depths of this really mucky, murky spot. You can always get out of it. I think that's the point, is that we want to keep raising the vibration and the consciousness of humanity. And many of you that are watching this and that have subscribed to my channel are on this trajectory, really helping to shine the light and show the way. So I would encourage all of you to jump deeply into your own awakening journey. It may or may not include psychedelics, but I hope that you can remain open and really look into the data and science, look into the social aspects, look into all of the resources that exist. In fact, I've just recently launched the Psychedelics Resource Guide. It's available online at my website, bethbell.me. You can find lots of information about psychedelics, how to go about scheduling a ceremony, as well as a lot of companies that, and I say companies, but I should say organizations that have incredible resources for you. They're all listed in the resource guide. There's so many tools and tips within that guide to really help you on your journey. I would encourage you to continue to build your spiritual toolbox, which has nothing to do with psychedelics and all to do with your own inner wisdom, accessing that place within that really gets you connected and keeps you connected to that North Star, because that is the only thing that is going to get us through. It's not our parents or our lovers, our spouses, our brothers and sisters. We're all here to support each other for sure, but it's about connecting to our own source and to oneness and to consciousness. And to do that, we sometimes have to go through different layers and dimensions of the collective consciousness that is out there. So it's constantly being reflected to us. I encourage everyone here to keep going on their journey, to stay grounded on their journey, and to use discernment on your journey. It's really important that we understand how opening our energetic fields can invite a lot of other energies in, and knowing where the right setting is for each one of us, and looking at this as a sacred journey into oneness, a sacred journey to embody all that we learn in the astral realms, all that we remember in the astral realms, as we are converging back with our soul's plan as opposed to the ego mind's plan. And the more of us that continue to do this, that come together in community, shining the light and showing the way, the better we will be as a whole of humanity. The more we'll understand the concepts of really bringing our brothers and sisters along with us, but not allowing them to take us down on the journey. So everyone has free will. Everyone has the ability to make choices as to which trajectory they're taking. Are they going here or are they going here? And sometimes that means that we have to let some of our relationships go, which is some of the things that we talk about on the weekly show, Unravel Your Mind. So I hope that you'll join each and every week, 11:11 a.m. Pacific time, here on YouTube, or you can join in the Zoom room and ask your live questions. So I'm super excited about all that is to come. Please check my website. I'll have more videos posting. I'll be uploading some of the audio from the convention. It is going to be from an attendee standpoint, so the audio will be from the seat that I sat. And there's so many good juicy nuggets. Please head over to the website. Tune into whatever feels like it resonates with you and what it is that you're interested in and what you want to hear about. There'll be lots of different soundtracks that I'm able to post from the week-long sessions. So I look forward to sharing more. If you have any insights that you'd like to share or questions that you have, please put them in the notes below. I would be more than happy to answer them next week, about you, your life, the book, Angels, Herpes, and Psychedelics, the conference that I went to. So it's all open for discussion. I look forward to hearing your questions and your thoughts. And until next week, I wish you nothing but bliss and love on life's journey.